Certainty is based on facts. Certainty has the answers to the questions who, what, where, and how. But it has more difficulty with the question, why? Why is the realm of mystery. Mystery includes all we do not know, things that may yet be, things that might be scientifically proven but so far have not been. Mystery also includes the subjective experience. We can be certain that a painting has specific colors and has proper proportions, but we are mystified as to why one person finds it beautiful and another does not. We can observe whether our partner has no other partners, helps with the finances, cleans the house, is nonviolent, and occasionally surprises us with gifts. However, that is not the mystery of love. Some people fall in love even without all the evidence cited above. This poem by Sarah Teasdale describes the enigma of love. It's entitled The Mystery. Your eyes drink of me. Love makes them shine. Your eyes that lean so close to mine. We have long been lovers. We know the range of each other's moods and how they change. But when we look at each other so, then we feel how little we know. The spirit eludes us, timid and free. Can I ever know you, or you know me? We can look at all the data, but what assembles them into truth? For an answer to that big question, I turn to this excerpt from the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. There are many ways that one might come to know something. Knowledge of empirical facts about the physical world will necessarily involve perception. In other words, the use of the senses. Science, with its collection of data and conducting of experiments, is the paradigm of empirical knowledge. However, much more of our mundane knowledge comes from the senses, as we look, listen, smell, touch, and taste the various objects in our environment. But all knowledge requires some amount of reasoning. Data collected by the scientists must be analyzed before knowledge is yielded. And we draw inferences based on what our senses tell us. And knowledge of abstract or non-empirical facts will exclusively rely on reasoning. In particular, intuition is often believed to be a sort of direct access to knowledge. So on one level, there are the facts, and on another level, there is reason. The rational mind comes up with concepts that helps us understand the facts. That table over there has 2 candles. What is a 2? I have seen the symbol for 2, but I have never seen a 2. Nor have I felt, tasted, or smelled, or heard a 2. Yet I am certain about the existence of 2. Did the concept of math arise out of experience? Or did humans possess an innate ability to organize data by numbers? Perhaps we count things because we are predisposed to count things. Math is a form of extrasensory perception. So those of you who didn't do so well growing up in your math class, you now have an excuse. It helps us understand the things we sense. Rationalizing makes sense, as in manufactures sense. Now, math is probably the greatest rationalization of humankind because its principles work across cultures. The calculations to make a plane fly are the same in China as they are in France. But there are other thoughts of our rationality that are less universal, such as the concept of God. Now, the idea of God can be reached by inductive reasoning, in which one observes what is true in oneself and expands and generalizes. Early in human history, people all over the world used inductive reasoning to find God. For instance, a woman said, "I make a basket, and every basket I see is made by somebody. But there are lots of things that I see that are greater than these small baskets that I make. So therefore, there must be someone greater than me who is making all these greater things." Unfortunately, the gods and goddesses found by inductive reasoning vary greatly between cultures. It is a rationalization that many people within a culture value, but different cultures often clash over religion. Things might have been different if deductive reasoning had been used. And that type of reasoning moves from the general down to the specific. And examples of that was, the universe exists, I am part of the universe, therefore I exist. The universe creates, I am part of the universe, therefore I create. Deductive reasoning is much more conservative than inductive reasoning. It stays closer to the empirical facts. It claims to know fewer things than inductive reasoning. Less is known for certain. Empirical and deductive reasoning is agnostic about God, beauty, humor, morality, purpose, and love. So if you want to be certain about these things, empiricism and deductive reasoning can give you probabilities that if you punch your neighbor in the nose less, you will be punched in the nose less. But that doesn't seem to have the power that has captured the imagination of phrases in every culture about loving your neighbor. Everything else that we can't know for certain is mystery. And some choose to call this mystery God. Now, I have trouble with this particular definition of God because it results in a shrinking notion of God. If God is everything that we don't know, then every time we discover something, we make God a little bit smaller. God used to make the rain fall until we discovered a process of evaporation and put God out of a job. Heaven was the home to gods and goddesses until we discovered that the stars were burning balls of gas. God, if there be a God, must not be a concept that is constantly losing stature as we learn more about the universe. Pantheism is a theory of God that equates the universe with God. In this schema, as our knowledge of the universe unfolds, the concept of God expands and blossoms. The deist position of those founding fathers who separated church and state believed that a God outside of creation wrote the laws of creation, and that as we discover the laws of physics, we discover the laws of God. The process theology of Henry Nelson Lyman, a Unitarian, defined God not as a person, but the process of creativity. As we participate in creativity, we are one with God. He wrote, "There is a creative power in history which is able to conquer and to save, but it is not any power of humanity, even though it works through humanity. In all times, both good and ill, humanity must live under its control if history should be fruitful." As if we're here and there's a stream of creativity that we can tap into and live by its power. Now, I've just listed a few theories of God, and there are many more. And with no unified theory, each of us at some level has to be agnostic. We choose empiricism or an inductive theory that makes sense to us. And with the world growing smaller and us communicating with people everywhere, we can no longer pretend we are not making a choice. We can no longer just say, "This is what my mother taught me, and this is what I believe," because we are exposed to so many different ways that we have to confront them. With empiricism and deductive reasoning, we are making a choice from the outset that we are only going to believe what we are certain about. We must be provisional or agnostic about all else. Does evil exist? It does if we define certain behaviors as evil, but we realize the concept of evil is somewhat dependent upon the culture in which it arises. Is there an ultimate good? This can also be an arbitrary and provisional choice under empiricism. What is our purpose? We decide what we will pursue in life. The draw of certainty in empiricism is that it brings predictability. Life is most stable when we examine it, make choices based on past performances. But of course, as the stock market often warns, past performances does not guarantee future benefits, something our country has learned a hard lesson in recent weeks. But there is something about the unknowable that draws most people. They want to believe there's a higher purpose or truth. It may be beyond our ability to measure or describe, but yet we try. Albert Einstein mentioned this when he talked about religion. He wrote, "The most beautiful and most profound experience is the sensation of the mystical. It is the sower of all true science." The sower, as the sower went out to spread the seed, the sower of all true science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. To know that what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom, and the most radiant beauty which our dull faculties can comprehend only in their primitive forms. This knowledge, this feeling, is at the center of true religiousness. What he's getting at, as even one of the great scientific minds of the 20th century, there was still that point of awe that caused him to ask why. That sometimes, as I've read, caused him to think of the theory first and then have to go back for years and do the math to support it. The empiricist must stand in awe of all that he or she does not know. This is the great mystery. And the inductive, intuitive, reasoning people must admit that their knowledge of the mystery is speculation. If their claims were provable, there would be no need for faith. Facts give us the comfort of certainty, while mystery calls us. Facts let us lay back and relax. Mystery propels us forward into the unknown. Mystery and certainty intertwine in our lives. There is a time to ask what and a time to ask why. We are on a quest and we take rest in the facts, but soon the restless questions emerge and we wrestle with the mystery. How do we balance what we know and what we hope for? How do we dare to overcome our fear of the unknown? We know we will never know everything. What inspires us to keep searching in the face of futility? A friend of mine who's a Presbyterian minister said, I don't think I could be a Unitarian minister. You have to be an expert on everything. And Christianity is complex enough. And I said, well, I don't have to be an expert on everything. I just have to ask questions and duck. So at this time, I open the floor to you and ask you, how do you balance certainty and mystery in your lives? Let's see if the pulpit mic, I have it on here. And it is working.
The church that I went to in Louisiana sold T-shirts, and I've always regretted not getting one. And the T-shirt said, the answer is to question.
Henry.
No one has ever seen God. Where is he?
Everywhere. Have you ever looked over?
They have theological debates over the kitchen table, I can tell.
Against my better judgment, I hesitate to burden theology with science, but there is a branch of computer science called fuzzy logic. It is based on possibility and probability. It is how the body works. It never really knows, it guesses. And it's the way NASA manages the satellites. They never really know, they guess.
Confidence.
I loved your comment to participate in creativity is to be at one with God.
That's Henry Nelson Wyman. I can't take credit for that. Oh, the choir. I've been preaching to the choir, and oh dear, they've been listening.
Your sermon today reminded me of a wonderful book I read about a man named Paul Erdős, who is a mathematician, and his entire world, his entire life just lived in numbers. That was it. And he liked to call God SF, the supreme fascist, because he locked these mysteries up, and every time he solved a theorem, he thought he just would wrenched it out of God's hands. And I just thought that was a funny way to go about it.
Speaking for myself in a purely selfish fashion, I am embroiled in what I've been calling uncertainty and not mystery. And I think there's a difference there, because somewhere in there, I think we really have no clue why people do what they do. And somebody, a politician the other day in a debate said, you know, if I don't question the motives of people, it leaves it much less virile, you know? I mean, it's not some nasty thing about, well, I'm sure you're just a racist is why you're doing this, or I'm sure you're just a, you know, an economist who's greedy. And so I personally feel like the mystery for me right now is, how in the world can you get engaged to two people in 1 week and not marry either one of them? I don't.
She is an employee of Wachovia.
Because I have made up my mind on the question of God, I allow the mystery to be in music for me. That's what takes me outside of myself. And so, and I know that music is based on mathematics, so perhaps that's why it works.
There's also a theorem or principle in the universe of uncertainty. The more you know about one thing, the less you know about something else. So you may be chasing your tail sometimes. On the other hand, I think that is an inspiration towards inquiry to keep looking. Also, in your comment about the stars, there was a song a number of years ago about tell me why the stars do shine, tell me why the ivy climbs, tell me why the sky's so blue, tell me why I love you. The second verse says God did all these things. The third verse out of MIT takes a quite different approach, which says nuclear fission makes the stars to shine, tropisms make the ivy climb, Rayleigh scattering makes the sky so blue, and reproductive hormones is why I love you.
Humor is a transcendent thing as well.
I think the certainty of mystery is what makes life worth living. We'll never get it all. We'll never figure it all out. And if we did, what would be the point?
I have a very simplistic attitude about religion. I came from congregational background, became a American Baptist, a Methodist, and finally, and I think all the time in my heart I was Unitarian Universalist anyway. But my simplistic answer to the mystery of life is it is a sacred mystery.
It is what? A sacred mystery.
Don't talk to me.
Quickly, this is your
Well, okay, I'll give up at this. The only heaven or hell we have is ourselves when we don't do the right thing or we love the one next to us.
We do the right.
Where is heaven or hell?
Yeah, yes. Love the one you're with. And then
my opinion on the whole topic of certainty and mystery is that even God himself doesn't know why he is alive. He just knows he's alive, and he does what he does, and that's it. And then, and all the certainty and mystery together can be unlocked. You just have the courage, and if you have the courage, then you can do anything. But if you don't have the courage and the endurance to do anything, then you're going to be a limited self for forever.
Let us rise as we are able and